Boomhauer69 channel, and today Boomhauer is going to do a talk video about solar. This video is going to be for the people who don't know much about solar charging stations and power stations and solar. It's going to be for those people. I'm just sharing my knowledge of what I know. I want to tell you right off the bat, I'm no expert in solar products, and I don't claim to be a professional expert, none of that, I'm just a guy that done some YouTube research at the YouTube University, watch YouTubers talk about solar and stuff and watch some videos on it. I'll be linking in the description to channels that I personally really like watching that talks about solar. One is a person that lives off grid. His channel is called Solar Cabin Off Grid Adventures, and then Bob Wells, Cheap RV Living, who is simply a nomad that lives life on the road and lives in an converted RV. It's an ambulance that's been converted into a camper RV motorhome type situation, and he does videos, talk about different solar setups and stuff, and also interviews people who live on the road and interviews their converter setup. Some people live in straight up campers, some live in actual cars, minivans, and different things, and he has a whole channel about basically much like living life on the road, and he does videos about portable solar setups and different types of solar panels and solar products out there and stuff. So he's one I've watched where I gained a lot of knowledge about solar stuff. And then the Solar Cabin Off Grid Adventures channel, that guy, I watched his channel and I learned a lot about his channel. Actually, the Solar Cabin channel I watched first, and that's where I really got into the whole solar thing. And then later on when I discovered Bob Wells, Cheap RV Living, that even got me even more into liking solar and learning more about it. But yeah. But this is going to be for those people who, looking for ideas, whether it's going off grid or simply, building a solar setup or going with a solar setup for simply just backup, in case your power goes out, or a backup emergency thing wherever you live, for maybe a backup in case of a power outage or whatever. About middle of August there, around, I think it was August 25, 26 there in my area, I had a storm that came along and knocked out my power for 3 days, and this is the little setup I had, which is only a $50 little cheap basic setup, and I used that for mostly lighting up a room in my house to be able to see at night when I was trying to do certain things or whatever. And that's what I had for solar. As far as my experience with actual using solar products, most of the solar products I use are just basic little flashlights with built-in little solar panels, and those ones that have the little flashlight and little AM FM radio, and you can supposedly charge up your cell phone and stuff, them little radio solar combo dynamo hand crank flashlights, and then that little solar kit there, and about it, and plus the little cheapy little solar lights that you put in the ground to light up a pathway, and the El Cheapo little $15 that you get at Menards, little motion sensor, little El Cheapo solar lights. That's as far as my experiences with solar is. I never owned a portable solar power station or a solar stationary solar setup, like 100-watt solar panels and stuff like that. I never owned that sort of thing because just simply I just don't have the money to be purchasing those sort of things at the moment. Down the line, yes, I would like to. Now, for those who don't know what is solar, what I'm talking about, these right here, solar panels and these solar setups and stuff. Here's a couple. Here's a portable one, and here's a kind of little stationary, little 100-watt kit that I actually been thinking about. Later on, when I got the money for $199, I might purchase that down the line and mess around with it and and see what I can all do on it and stuff. But yeah, what solar is simply a way to generate power using the sun. The sun beams down on the panels and on these special panels. Some of them are polycrystalline and some are I think they call it polycrystalline, and then there's monocrystalline. I'll have to look out there. I know there's two types of panels. I know the polycrystalline from what I understand, I think are the better ones and stuff. And all it is just basically a panel that you stick out in the sun. Sun shines on this panel, generates electricity, which is basically just run to a battery. That battery is the storing the power, and the solar panel is hooked up to a what they call a charge controller, which is a little device that you would have mounted somewhere on your wall or mounted somewhere nearby that controls the charging of the battery and stuff, and basically tells the solar panel, hey, I'm sorry, I can't use any more power, the battery's full and stuff, and which is called a charge controller, and just acts like a simple battery charger and stuff. So you have one of these. This is what a charger looks like on a stationary setup. Now with one of these portable setups, the charger and everything is all in this little box that looks like a lunch cooler. Here's what the Jackery one is. This is one of the most common ones you're going to find is a Jackery. But yeah, that's all it is. It's just basically a setup that's using the sun to generate power to simply charge up a battery, which the battery, and basically the sun is generating power, which they call DC power, direct current, DC. The DC power is then going to a battery, which the battery acts like a storage unit, stores the power, and then you can hook up, maybe like a fuse box or a power inverter, in which allows you to use that electricity for certain applications. Depending on the size and wattage of the setup you go with, determines how much power you have and what you can do or not. So basically, the first thing is, what I would do is figure out what setup's going to work for you. Do you want a stationary setup or do you want a portable setup? What is going to be the things you're going to do with it, Are you going to be traveling a lot? Are you going to be running the roads? Are you going to be living life on the road? Are you going to be an RV nomad type person and stuff? Are you going to be living life on the road? Then you might want to go with this right here, a portable setup. Now, usually with portable setups like this, normally some of them, you get the power station separate, and then you have to also buy the panel separate, where a lot of them, the solar panel and the power station, don't sell it together. There's a few out that do bundle one, but they cost a lot of money and stuff, and can get anywhere upwards to $1,000, depending on the size of the power station you want. So first thing I would do is think about what it is you're going to do with the setup. Is it going to be mobile? Are you going to be using it to travel with a lot? So you probably want to look at a portable setup versus a stationary setup, depending on what your needs are, figure out what your needs are. Me personally, if I'm going to go with solar, I'm just going to go with a stationary setup. So I would go with something like this. This is just a little 100 watt kit, but something kind of close to this. And then what I would do is once you figure out that, mobiles are good for portable, easy to use. Now, if you go with one of these portable setups, it's going to be a lot easier. It's going to be just plug and play kind of thing. But the one thing you got to remember was on portable solar power stations is they all have their different types of cords that you have to use. They have proprietary cords, a lot of them, to hook up to a solar panel and stuff. So you want to make sure if you're using a power station and you decide, I don't want to use the same company's solar panel, like for example, this Bluetti here, let's say the Bluetti, they also make a fold up solar panel that allows you to fold it up like a briefcase or a suitcase, like a book almost, and you can use it with your solar power station. And let's say, okay, you don't want to use that cloth because a lot of them make them out of like a sewing fiber cloth material, the basically the case and stuff. And let's say you don't want that, you want one of those solar panels that are foldable but more heavier duty, made like a rubber material or something. You want something a little more heavier duty than a cloth type setup. Here's a picture of what a cloth solar panel looks like and stuff. Let's say you don't want one of those in your solar power station you're using. That's all they come. That's what they have, and so you want to look somewhere else. You just gotta make sure whatever solar panels you buy comes with the proper connector you need to hook it up to your power station to charge it through solar. They have just basically a proprietary type plug sometimes on them, and you just gotta make sure you have that plug. Some of the higher end companies do have a plug that automatically comes with the power station. So you don't gotta worry about. And then it has the standard like MP4 connector and stuff, because they do have standardized connections for the actual connecting to a solar panel. So you just want to make sure your solar power station you're using and panels and whatever has the more what they call a proprietary connector. I think they call it MP4 connector. I think is the standard one. I could be wrong on that, but yeah. But that's how it works in portable stations. Now, depending on what size of power station and how much wattage it can produce, is going to determine the cost. Same thing with a stationary setup and a portable setup. Either one you buy, it's all going to determine how much wattage can produce and how much the price is going to be. If it can produce 1 kilowatts of power, you're probably going to look at maybe like around $1,000 or close to a higher price money. Now, if you're looking for something that's only going to produce about 100 watts of power, then you're going to spend around $100. Like this little kit here, that's around only $200 and stuff, and that's only a little small 100 watt little small kit and stuff. So that's only gonna be around $100. Now if you go with like something that can produce like 400 watts, like this EcoWorthy set here, which I never owned any of these, I'm just using these for demonstration purposes. Like this EcoWorthy here, that's around $400 or $500 so. But yeah, so once you establish what kind of setup's going to work for you, a stationary setup or a portable setup, then it's determining what are you going to use it for. Like how much wattage are you going to need for your situation. And what I would suggest doing in that situation, like to determine how much power wattage you actually need, is walk around your house or setup or whatever it is you're going to use the solar setup at. Walk around with a pencil, notepad, or your cell phone, iPad, whatever. Take notes and think, okay, what it is do I truly 100% need the solar electric for, whether it's for emergencies or simply off-grid. Now me, what I would do is I thought about this numerous times at my work. I thought about this numerous times, what it is I truly need and stuff. What is the most important thing I need a solar setup for? And it would be for this right here, to run lights, electricity to run lights. That would be my number one thing. So what I would do is, in that respect, is I'd say, okay, I need lights. How much lighting do I need? I plan on in the near future sometime building a little 2-room shed, and make a little 2-room shed where it has a kitchen and a living space, and using that for like my little solar backup, little off-grid house for in case of emergency or something was to happen where I didn't have power at the main house, I could go out back to my little guest house thingy and have my little shed, guest house, whatever you want to call it, little shack, and turn on the solar setup and be ready to go and not have to worry. So I'm looking at it, okay, what do I need? What do I do not need? For me, my biggest thing is it's going to be running lights. It's going to be able to, at night, be able to see and stuff. And so what I would do I'm going to personally, since it's just going to be stationary and it's just going to be something that's not going to move, I'm going to go with a stationary setup versus a portable setup. It's just going to be stationary. It's going to stay right where it's at. Now, with portable setups, you can even use them like the little portable power station. I always call them solar generators, but them little setup, you can even use them stationary. You don't necessarily got to be always on the go when using one of those, but it's up to you what you want to do. Now, the only thing with those, like Bluettis, Jackeries, and all that stuff is, when the battery is 100% complete junk on them, then you gotta, basically throw the whole unit out and go buy a whole nother unit and stuff. So, with like this kind of setup here, if let's say your battery goes to poop, all you gotta do is unhook the battery, properly recycle the battery, get you a new battery, and then you're back in business. Or if your power inverter goes out, you can easily replace that. Obviously on the portable solar power station stuff, if your power inverter goes, your built-in power inverter goes out, there's no way to replace it, and you just got to throw out the whole unit. So if your battery or power inverter or something on it goes out, you're most likely just throwing the whole unit out and stuff. And with these little, I call them stationary setups, if one part fails, you can usually just unhook it, remove it, and go get you a new one. Say your solar panel conks out for whatever reason, you just can take the panel, properly recycle it, and then get you a new one, and then you're back in business, and you can sometimes that way save a little money and stuff and things. But yeah. But what I would be doing with the solar set, and mainly lights is what I would be doing, and then running some computer devices, like maybe a energy efficient laptop, and maybe if I didn't have an internet, it would be running internet. All I would need for my needs is it's just basically a solar setup that would be able to run lights, and then also at the same time run my laptop computer, a basic laptop computer, and maybe charge up some small mobile devices like my tablet and my cell phone, and run a small internet modem, because I plan on, when I do get the funding to build my setup and idea and move forward with that, I would probably look at getting a basic smartphone that would allow you to use it as an internet modem, and then replace my flip phone. But my flip phone now does allow what they call USB tethering, where you could use it basically as an internet modem. But I would probably get a smartphone that would allow you just basically over via Bluetooth do what they call mobile hotspotting and stuff. Or if I didn't want to do that, then look at maybe getting one of those actual little Ethernet modem, look at one of those wireless Wi-Fi modems that run off cell phone towers, or maybe go with Starlink or something, whatever. In the case where I know Starlink is a good one for off-grid use and stuff and things, depending on the situation. Probably around here, I'd probably go with one of those ones that just connect off from cell phone towers, one of those little small little USB internet modems that just connect to the cell phone service and from there and stuff. But it all would depend on your location, of course, for like internet stuff, because that's all I would need for basic. It's just lighting and then running internet, because I use internet for my business and also So for entertainment purposes and stuff, so I would have to have a solar setup that would basically be able to run those things. And then the third would be is to be able to charge up my DeWalt battery so I can run my DeWalt lights and be able to charge up my DeWalt batteries to run my lights and DeWalt power tools that I have and stuff. So, and that's about it. As far as like using electricity for like using solar electricity for like cooking food and stuff, I wouldn't even bother with that. I myself, for like the heating and cooking, I would go with a wood stove and just use wood for my heating and cooking purposes to prepare all my meals and stuff. But yeah. And so all I would have to do is, jot down what I'm actually going to need and all that stuff and figure out how much wattage everything's going to take and then determine what kind of solar wattage setup, because that's the key thing. What I would suggest, whatever setup, whatever you're going to do, like if it's traveling in an RV or your car or your house or whatever, whatever setup you're going to be using the solar system at, what I would suggest doing is walking around the place and taking notes of what it is you're going to need to do. Like, for example, if you're going to be doing solar at your house, what I would suggest doing, like if you have a house or apartment or whatever, and you're going to do like a solar setup there or whatever, I would walk around and make notes of what you absolutely gotta run and what you really don't need, and the things that you don't need, cut that out and simply just go basic and stuff. Like if you absolutely gotta run an Xbox video game system or PlayStation and a TV and stuff and a bunch of computers, then take note of how much wattage that stuff is gonna use and go from there and write down how much the wattage is, tally up your wattage however you do, and see, and then go from there to see what's going to suit you in the solar setup. Because the thing is basically what I learned about solar products and solar kits, usually the more wattage power it can produce, the more money it's going to cost you to purchase that item. So you really have to think about what it is you really need a solar kit to do, a solar setup to do and stuff, and what it is you're going to run. For example, me, like a lot of people have alarm clocks, plug-in clock radios and stuff, Me, I wouldn't need that because, well, I have a cell phone and I can just use the cell phone as my clock radio, my alarm clock if I needed one, and plus there's battery operated clock radios out there where I could easily just that run on a 9-volt battery or maybe AA's or AAA batteries where I could just swap in the battery and be good to go if I really felt like I needed a actual alarm clock and stuff. And then plus, like wall clocks, there's tons of battery operated ones out there and stuff. And like a TV, I don't use a TV a whole lot, so I could probably cut out a TV. But if I felt like I needed a TV, I would simply go with like a small portable 13-inch or a 20-inch TV, something under, like a TV under 20 inches, like maybe a small 20-inch TV or a 13-inch TV. I wouldn't go with a big, humongous TV because obviously it would take more power to run, more wattage and stuff, and so things like that. Like me, for example, I have VHSs and DVDs. I would simply just transfer all my VHSs over to DVDs, record them on DVD and then discard the VHSs and get rid of that and just go with the DVDs, because obviously DVD players and stuff are going to simply take up less power to run versus using a VHS player where the VHS player would obviously suck down more wattage and juice. So I would cut that out of my life. And as far as like using electricity for cooking purposes, I wouldn't really need need electricity for that, because I use it when I am cooking on a stove or something. I'm just using a lot of hand utensils and stuff. Like I use a lot of times my hand crank hand mixer and stuff, where I don't personally need to use, you know, electric mixer and stuff. I just mix everything by hand and stuff, so I wouldn't need to do all that stuff. But yeah, it's just boring down to thinking about, what do you really need the solar kit? What do you really need to run on your solar electricity stuff, and figuring out how much wattage power you're really going to be using a lot. And once you figure all that stuff out, then you would be pretty good and stuff. And then through that you can determine how much is it going to cost for you to run the setup and everything. Like if you go with one of these types of setups, you'd have to figure out, if you're going to run a power inverter, are you going to hook up fuses and all that stuff, how much is the battery going to cost you, and how many panels are you going to need to charge up that panel and stuff. So that's one of the things you got to remember. Remember this: if you got a big battery, you might need 2 solar panels, and usually a 100-watt solar panel is going to run you around $100 or so for one. And then if you get 2, that might be 2 or 300 or 4, depending on how many panels you get. It's going to also determine, how much the price is going to cost. Now with these portable power stations, you don't got to worry about buying a power inverter and all this other stuff like we do with our stationary setup, like these kits here, because the power station, it has the power inverter, the battery, and everything all inside of it. The downfall is when something breaks on it, a lot of times you're going to have to throw that power station out and go buy a new one, and that might get kind of costly and stuff, and especially if you have one of the big power stations that produce a lot of wattage of power. Like let's say if you got one that can produce 1 kilowatt of power, that's going to be expensive to replace, because a lot of them ain't cheap and stuff. They ain't cheap to make, so they're going to pass the savings on to you, so keep that in mind. Now with this type of setup over here, you don't got to worry about that too much. If something breaks on it, say your power inverter goes out or your battery, all you got to do is disconnect it and then go replace it, and it might be a little cheaper in the long run and stuff. So yeah, it's just basically when you're trying to figure out what kind of solar setup to go with, it boils down to what are you going to be using it for. It's basically what I would say is, what are you actually going to be using it for, And what I would say is try to figure out what is like kind of the bare minimum you can get away with and stuff. So if you're only going to be using a certain amount of wattage, and you end up buying a system that turns out you have plenty of like power left over for other things, you might, think about maybe adding a luxury item to your setup, and stuff. So it's just basically like, for example, your house, just walk around it with your phone and take notes and say, okay, do I really need that extra TV or do I really need that extra light fixture or video game system, computer, whatever. That's all it is and stuff. So that's what I suggest doing. If you like this sort of content, give this video a thumbs up. But yeah, basically, walk around, say, do I really need this? Do I really need that? So forth and so on. So if you like this sort of content, give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you didn't like the video, comment below your thoughts. Do you think this was a good video, bad video, whatever. Hope you all have a good day, and thank you for watching Boomhauer69's channel.